Hi everyone, it's Shannon and welcome to today's video. So as promised, this is my recap of the first ever Jollywood Nights. So basically I'm going to try and kind of go over everything that happened, the pros, things, and there were pros. I will tell you there were pros. There were things that we absolutely loved. The cons, there was a lot. And also, whether or not I think this event, there's 9 more events left. 2 are sold out. However, I am hearing a lot of people are getting refunds. So I'm going to talk about whether or not I think this event is good to purchase. Because I do think it's not necessarily like it's don't attend, like it's not worth the money. I think it's worth the money if what your expectations are. And I'll talk about that at the end. So let's get started. Now, I will say I am a little overwhelmed with how many views that video has gotten for my small channel. My channel is just a little over 20,000. I think I have like 100 new subscribers just from that video alone yesterday. As of recording this, I think I have 8,000 views, you know, in just maybe 36 hours, which is a lot for my channel, especially my vlogs. My Disney vlogs don't typically do that well, to be honest. So just because we only go to Disney a couple times a year and we're not there all the time. So I think there's a lot of you that are new here, so I just want to introduce myself. I am Shannon Ford, and I also have a co-host. I co-host the DVC Newscast. It's a podcast with, we talk about news, Disney related, mostly DVC, and we kind of rotate. My main co-host is Pete, and it's part of the My DVC Points network. So you can also listen to me there. And then I started this channel in 2020 and it was mainly Disney content related. However, we all know what happened in 2020. So it has since been expanded and it covers just kind of, it's a lifestyle family type vlog. And then I do have a separate beauty channel called Shannon Loves Makeup. I had started doing a beauty content on this channel and it didn't make sense to have it all on one channel. So I did start that a little over a year ago. So if you curious about any makeup, feel free to find me there. So I just want to do a quick introduction. If you are interested in certain topics for Jollywood Nights, I am going to try and put timestamps at the bottom. I tend to ramble. I know that. I try not to, but it is what it is. So I will put timestamps in the bottom. So if you are curious about a specific topic, just feel free to go down to the bottom and click on it. If it's not up right when I post this video, it should be, they should be there within 24 hours of the video being posted. I just want to obviously get the video up as quickly as possible, but I do want to put those timestamps because I have a feeling this might be a longer type video. And then also a lot of people were asking me about my ears. So here were the ears that I wore that night. These are a maker in UK. It's Chasing Childhood. I will post her link below. I've had these for 4 or 5 years, maybe at least. I think I've had these 4 years, and they have held up fantastic. I do take good care of these, but they're just gorgeous. I will say they're comfortable, but they're not the most comfortable because they are kind of heavy, but not too heavy. They're definitely more comfortable than the Disney ears, but that's Chasing Childhood. She's fantastic. She opens her shop and does certain, ears different times a year, but just get on her website and she also has an Instagram. I'll post both in the links below. Our outfits, mine and Ray's, were from Shanetsi, I think it's how it's, or Shinetsi. His suit is still in stock. My dress has been discontinued. They have the wrap dress version of it, the same pattern. It's the Lincoln Log pattern. But the dress that I wore is what is called the skater dress. And that one was discontinued. They do have that in other like Christmas styles if you're interested. And I did get a size small, so you just kind of know that. Super comfortable, and it had pockets, which is awesome. Love a dress with pockets. So that's where our outfits came from. And then Ryder's came from Gymboree, and that's recent. So his was purchased from Gymboree. So I'll post the link, all the links below. A lot of people were asking me, so I figured it was just kind of get it all out in one sweep. Okay, so let's get started about Jollywood Nights. So first of all, what did we pay? We paid $476 and a couple cents. We did get a discount. I think it was the DVC discount. I think it was $10 a ticket. So it was just under $500. It was $476. I think if we didn't have the discount, it would have been a little over $500 for 3 of us. A lot of people were like, well, you shouldn't have gone to the first party. So, if you're new to my channel, I don't vlog or I don't go to Disney to create content. I go to Disney as a vacation with my family. Like, we are DVC members and we go and I vlog our trips, but it's always a vacation first. So my vlogs are very vacation focused and realistic focused. Like, we're not trying just going to create content. We're going and I'm creating content, but I'm just creating content of our vacation. So how this worked out was we already had this trip planned. We had booked it at 7 months with DVC. As soon as 7 months, that's kind of how DVC works, booked our trip. So we got there on November 6th, and then we were staying until November 12th. So we didn't go to Disney World for Jollywood Nights. We were there, and that was the reason why the first party. I personally would not, I would have preferred not to go to the first party, for the purpose exactly of some of the things that happened. In 2018, in August, we again had a pre-planned trip well before my vlog was started, and we went to the first Halloween party. My son was 3. Same thing happened with the vloggers and media event. We knew it was a media event. And my suspicion, I don't know this is fact, but my suspicion is that there's a capacity for the event. And then when they invite all the vloggers, bloggers, media, everybody, and there was media, there was like news media too. So it was a lot of media. But when they invite them, my suspicion is they don't count that towards the capacity. So if they invite 500, comp media or whatever, 500 people, they're not counting that in the capacity. I don't know that for sure. That's just my speculation, but I have been to sold out parties the first night and a sold out party later on, and the later one on always feels a lot less crowded. So I didn't really want to go to the first party. It just worked out for our trip, and it was either go the first night or not go at all. So that was the reason why we went the first night. Okay, so let's talk about the timing of the event. The event is from 8:30 to 12:30, and you're allowed to get in at 7. Usually they allow you in at 6:45, which I did hear. They did allow people in at 6:45. I had planned to, be there at 6:45. That was always my intention. We just were in Disney Springs earlier in the day and spent a lot more time there, and so getting ready took a little bit longer. So we got there at 6:55, so it wasn't that late. It wasn't that much later. The line outside was chaotic. It was chaotic. It moved, I won't say it moved fast, and I have a unique ability to always pick the slowest line. It's a talent. And when my son and my husband had gotten stuck at security, so I went and got in line, and I don't think my line moved at all. So about 5 minutes later, Ray and Ryder came up. I had them get in another line, and my line started moving, but their line moved a lot faster, so I ended up moving into their line. What I think happened, what I could see going when I was coming up, is that people had their magic bands, but their tickets weren't linked to their magic band. So they were trying to be scanned, and they weren't linked, or they weren't linked to their account. So, just make sure, try and get that, settled so that you're not holding up the line. It helps everybody else. And then also, you don't want to be held up for that reason as well. They gave us the wristbands. So they gave us the wristbands, that's in my video. And then they gave us these lanyards. And I was kind of confused, and I asked somebody, the person handed the lanyard, I'm like, what is this? He goes, oh, it's just another form of identification. I said, do we have to wear this all night? He said, no, as long as you have your wristband, but the lanyard would be easier. So I was like, okay, so we put them on, but then when I took our photo, like the lanyard ended up like in Ryder's face, and I ended up taking it off. Ryder didn't like it. It was bothering him, so he took it off, and then Ray also, he didn't want to wear it. So we just took them off, but we were told you didn't need them. They were another form of identification. That was not the case. There was a couple times throughout the night where we were asked, well, where's your lanyard? I said, here's my wristband. You need your lanyard too. Well, we had brought a stroller. Yes, my son is 7. We did bring a stroller because it was a late night, and we knew he was going to be tired at the end of the night. But we had brought our stroller and kind of parked it at stroller parking and left it there so that we could go back to it later on. We didn't want to have to be dragging it around. So we had left the lanyards in there. So at one point I can't remember where it was, but they almost didn't let us in. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Like, we have our wristbands. And I told them, I said, the guy said that it was optional. It was an either or, as long as you had one. He goes, no, you're supposed to be wearing both. So that happened to me twice. I've heard other people were denied entry into certain places. I was always let in, but I had to convince them to let us in. So right there, the communication between what the rules were and what was told to the cast members was different, because the people passing out the lanyards told us it was optional, and then other venues said you needed it. So they need to clear that up. But just know, I would just say, if you can, wear the lanyard, or at least have it on you, so you don't have to, if you have a bag or a purse or something, put it in your bag or purse, if you don't want to wear it, just so you have it. Ours was, far away and we couldn't get to it. So that was it didn't need to happen that way. They could have just given the information and just made sure that the information was correct. So as I stated, the event goes, we were able to get in at 7. The event goes from 8:30 to 12:30. So our plan was, there was nothing started early on. So our plan was to ride as many rides early on. We had told Ryder, okay, what do you want to ride? We knew Rock and Roller Coaster and Tower of Terror are his favorite rides. And then he did want to ride Mickey's Runaway Railway. And so those were the 3 that we were trying. He also wanted to ride Slinky Dog. We were going to go there later, but then it rained, so we figured it was closed. So that was what we did. First couple things we did was get on and start and ride those 3 rides. And we were able to get all those 3 rides done within before 8:30. Actually, we would have been off Mickey's and Minnie's Runaway Railway by 8:30, but we got stuck. So we were stuck for about 5 minutes. At the end, it was at the end, you kind of see it a little bit at the end, but we got off, I think we ended up walking off around 8:37, so we would have probably just gotten off at 8:30, but we did get stuck. But otherwise, we were able to accomplish those 3 rides very, very early on, and in that 8 to 8:30 after the park closed, Mikey's and Minnie's Runaway Railway was pretty much, not a walk-on, but pretty close. Okay, so when we got off the ride, my original intention was to try and go straight to Who's This? However, since we got off the ride and we got stuck, we weren't able to make that showing at 8:30. Then they had given us a map, so I was like, okay, well, let's go look at the, everything was starting at 8:30, and I started looking at the map. Now, one thing about the map's pretty cool. Ours pretty much got wet and kind of got ruined, but you can probably watch any sort of vlogger and have them. They're really pretty. However, it is very dark, and there's not a lot of light in a lot of places. So when you're looking around and you're trying to pull out the map and trying to find where the magic shots are, it's really hard to find, because it's like a little camera and it doesn't have it on the map where it is. It just has a camera, and that's where the photo stops are, but it doesn't tell you where I had talked about in my preview video that there was these magic shots, but I didn't know where they were. So we saw one setting up, and it was at that point, it was 8:40, and we saw one setting up right in front of the Chinese theater. And we said, oh, is this ready to go? And she goes, no, it's not up yet. It should be up in 30 to 40 minutes. It was already 8:40. The party's 4 hours long. Okay, so I know it's the first night, but to me, if you're going to have these magic shots and you're going to advertise them, they should have been up and ready. They should have been up, and ready, honestly, by 8. But they were still setting it up at 8:40, and they said it's going to be 30 to 40 more minutes. So that means it was going to be, almost 20%, 25% of the party. She also said all the magic shots should be up by 9:15. Okay, party started at 8:30. To me, that's unacceptable. Now, I only saw that one, so that one was the only one that I saw that wasn't set up by that time. But she did say they should be all set up by 9:15, which leads me to the impression that they all weren't set up. I don't know. But so then we started heading to the characters. We're like, okay, let's look at the characters. We knew we weren't going to be able, I had already seen the line for the first Disney holidays, and it was crazy. It was like, okay, we're not even going to try for that. So then we went to the characters. All the lines for the characters were really long. This was Mickey, the Goofy, Mickey and Friends. Mickey and Minnie alternated, Daisy and Donald alternated, and Goofy and Pluto alternated. The issue here is if my son really wanted to see Mickey, we didn't know when to get in line, because if you got in line, they could switch. And if they switched, you don't know if you were getting Mickey or Minnie because you didn't know how long the line was going to be. Like when you go on Disney Cruise Line, they do that, right? But they'll tell you, okay, you're now getting, if you get in line, they say, okay, you're the last one for Mickey, or you're the last one for Minnie. And then when they switch, they're like, okay, the next person, and then they won't let the line. So that was my son really wanted to see Mickey. He likes Minnie, but between Mickey and Minnie, he wanted to see Mickey. And, really didn't know who you were going to get in line with. So we were going to come back. However, I think Mickey was the only one that was covered. And I thought they all were out in the open, to be honest. But when I looked back on my footage, it looked like Mickey was under some cover, but Donald and Daisy were not, and neither was Goofy and Pluto. They were out in the open. So when everything started raining and all the characters went in, I assumed, we never went back there. I assumed that they were pulled too. So only Mickey and Minnie were undercover. Hopefully they will make adjustments for that, especially if rain is predicted. Rain was predicted this night. It was like a 30% chance. So hopefully they make some contingency plans for this. But, that I thought, especially that there are covered spaces in Animation Courtyard already, why they didn't utilize that is beyond me. Okay, so when we decided to go ahead and skip the characters, I saw that there was in the Disney Junior Dance and Play, or Play and Dance, walked in and we're like, okay, we saw something. So we just well, let's go in there. And that was where they were doing one of the magic shots. And honestly, this magic shot was the best one of the one that we did. And actually, we didn't take that many pictures. All the pictures are included. However, all the lines are really long. So we only took 3 pictures. And if you know me, I take a lot of pictures. We do have PhotoPass Memory Maker. You don't need it for the party. However, I had intended to take a lot of pictures. I got dressed up in all plaid to take a lot of pictures, and we took 3. But this one was amazing. They have 2. It's called Snow Glow, which is kind of like slow-mo, but it's Snow Glow. And then the other one is Celebrate. The Snow Glow takes 3 seconds. It films 3 seconds. And then the Celebrate is 15 seconds. You kind of see it, and you're allowed to pick. However, they were really prompting everybody to do Snow Glow. They were like, what do you want to do for Snow Glow? What are you going to do for Snow Glow? And Ryder, we had asked Ryder, was like, okay, Ryder, what do you want to do? This is, we want you to, he chose what we want to do. He goes, I want to do Celebrate. And then we figured out what we were going to do. So when we saw that they were basically telling everybody they were doing Snow Glow, I went to the cast member and I'm like, can we do Celebrate? My son wants to do Celebrate. And she goes, okay. So she was very nice. But I think that obviously they were trying to prompt people to do the Snow Glow because it was a lot faster. It was 3 seconds versus 15. So just keep that in mind, that if you do want to do it, the one we did was Celebrate, and I really liked it. I love how it came out. I love how the music is different. So if you want to see, I have a short, I'll post it up here, of it, which is the whole thing. It's Christmas music. I had to take that out of the actual video because of copyright issues. So, but really cool. That line took maybe 15-20 minutes. It was pretty fast, but we were one of the first people there. And again, nobody knew it was there. I don't know how it was throughout the night. I did hear it got longer, but I don't know how long. Again, it was hidden. So I think going forward, if you do attend, I would try and do those pretty early, because I think that as people learn that it's there, the line is going to get a lot longer. Then we walked over and we saw another little corner. We went to go see Donald and Daisy. We thought maybe we get in that line, but then we saw in what was what used to be a merchandise shop, they were doing something there. So we saw, and the guy was holding a sign, and it was like, oh, another magic shot. This one was really fast. It's basically, this is the Boomerang one where they shoot from 9 different angles. And they give you a couple different ideas. There's some ideas, and again, we let Ryder choose what we wanted to do, and he says, I want to fight over the gift. So there was another one where you could open it up and there was like a light, and you open it up and there was like a light inside, but no, he wanted to fight over the gift. So that's what we did. I loved how it came out as well. You could have done it again and gone back around, but we just chose to leave at that time. So it was great. I really enjoyed that. I think those were really amazing. Those were definitely highlights for us. I think those were pros. Those were unique offerings. You're not going to get that at any other party. I thought it was very, very cool. So while I am going to be critical of a lot of things in this of the Jollywood Nights, I think those were very unique offerings, not worth $500, but very unique offerings and something my family really enjoyed. Okay, so then as we were leaving, a cast member stopped Ryder and he was like, oh, you look so dapper. And then the DJ, and that's when you heard the DJ talking about like, if you think you are the best dressed. So she grabbed Ryder and she goes, Ryder, they're gonna, she said, do you want to do this, this like, walk the runway? And he was very excited. He was very excited with being in his hat and everything. So she walked him over to the DJ. Like, we didn't go over there. She walked him and brought him over. And it was a lot of fun. That DJ, he was fantastic. I think he was probably from our area because he knew that area code was 954. So he made some comments. But so he was fantastic. The couple things is one was like supposed to walk the red carpet, but they had no red carpet. I mean, they easily could have done like a nice little small short red carpet, not even very long, just a short red carpet so that they could have done this a little better. Plus, it was so dark. No one saw anything. Like, all you had to do was put up some lights. They could have made like this nice little runway, like a true red carpet, and put some lights there and made it like that. Like, he was trying to do that and he was great, but there was nothing there. And he was like, it's the imaginary red carpet. I mean, come on. Like, so he was great. And that's what I'll say also is all the cast members were amazing. Like, the cast members were great. I have zero complaints about cast members. I will say at the end of the night, you could tell they were frustrated. You could tell they were frustrated. They were frustrated as much as we were. And I'll get to that, but I have no complaints about cast members. And in fact, I think some of them were just absolutely amazing, especially this DJ. So it was kind of like, get on the red carpet and then just like an imaginary red carpet. So right there, they could have made that space just a lot better, had a little red carpet there so that, a little walkway, something, even just like a Jollywood Nights, like a step and repeat so people could take, pictures, not even necessarily a photo pass photographer, but just a step and repeat so that people could take their own, pictures there. And then that gives that DJ a little bit something more to work with. But he was fantastic. And then we met a gentleman, I think his name was Matt. He runs the Route of All Theme Parks on YouTube. And so I actually filmed for him doing that. And we were kind of walking out together. So when we left, we walked out together and he's like, what are you guys going to do next? And I said, well, I think I'm going to go to one of the shows. And he goes, oh, I just went to the Who's This. And he says, it's amazing. So that's what we decided to do. We decided it was already 9:10 at that point. So we decided to go, the next show for Who's This was at 8:30. So we walked over there at 9:10 and we got in line. Ray went to the bathroom and he actually got a pretzel at that point, which was very smart. We wanted to do some some of the special foods and drinks, but he was really hungry. So he got a pretzel and Ryder and I were able to get in and they opened the doors at 15 minutes before. So the show started at 9:30. They opened the doors at 9:15. They did ask everybody go down all the row, but I did see this group of people kind of dead center, like in the middle, maybe 5 or 6 rows back, but dead center. So I figured, okay, these people are VIP. So we walked in and sat right next to them. And that was an influencer, an Instagram influencer. And she was, I don't want to say her name, but they were very nice. We saw them a couple times throughout the night and they did not have a handler from what I could see. And I never saw them like cutting lines either. But she said she was an Instagram influencer and local. So she didn't really do, she did some Disney content when they went to Disney, but she wasn't Disney focused. So again, I'll add a little bit about that a little bit, but They told me that they had an event earlier on. They got let out around 9. And my understanding, just from looking, they didn't tell me much, but looking from other influencer pictures, it seemed that they had a few characters at that event, as well as like some of the food that was going to be served at the event. They had it there so that they could like all take their pictures and do all the fun things on Instagram. So, just that's kind of what they had right before. So but they were very nice, and they had obviously gotten VIP seating, which I don't really have a problem with. And we got VIP seating because we got to sit right next to them. And, Ray had to like beg them to let him in with his pretzel. And I basically had to put the pretzel in my purse, while the show was on. And then we ate it after the show. But, let's talk about Who's This? Who's This is amazing. I am not the biggest Nightmare Before Christmas person. I'm not a big fan of the movie. I've seen it. Ryder, at one point, when he was 4, he was obsessed with it. He still likes it. That show is fantastic. It's the big puppet from the Halloween party that comes in and out at the beginning and the end. There's Oogie Boogie at one point, and then there's these 2 silent characters, a man and a woman, and they kind of act. Were people singing along? No. I think maybe the first one, a couple of the songs, but not really. People weren't singing along, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. My husband does not like the movie, and he thought it was great, and Ryder loved it. Like, Ryder was just like, oh, like it was amazing. So that was, to me, that was not the show that I was really looking forward to, but that show is a do not miss. Okay, so after Who's This, the next plan was to go to the next showing at 10:45 of Disney Holidays. In hindsight, I really wish I hadn't done that. Having looked at the weather report, knowing that rain was, there was a chance of rain later in the night, I wish I had gone to the later show. That's on me. And honestly, having gone to the show, I wish I probably would have skipped it entirely. But we decided to head over to the Disney Holidays. Now, it was the show for Who's This is about 21 minutes long, and you get out. So it started right at 9:30. We were probably walking out at 9:55. So we were walking in front of the theater at 10 o'clock. So we were by the theater. I just remember it being exactly 10 o'clock. So we decided, okay, well, let's go over to the Tip Top Lounge. I asked them, what time do you guys start opening the doors? They said 10:30. I mean, there was a line, but it wasn't nearly as long as it was earlier. Remember that this was already going to be the 3rd show. So there were a few people already lined up, but not that many, not like before. We went over to the Tip Top Lounge, wherever, and which is in the courtyard. So it's the courtyard, and you've probably already seen this. It's the courtyard right outside Tower of Terror, right outside the gift shop. And I wanted a drink. That was one of the places. The Fifth Dimension was the drink that I was kind of wanting. It had tequila, it had Prosecco. I mean, that's like my perfect drink. And the line was crazy. I was like, oh my God, this line is ridiculous. So and my husband's like, no, just go ahead and wait for it. So I said, well, you know what? We're right in front of Tower of Terror. Everything looked to be, it had the 13, time posted. So you knew it was a walk-on. So I said, take Ryder to the ride. And then by the time you guys are done, hopefully I'll have a drink and we'll go to the show. They went on it. They came out and I was still in line. Now I was closer to the front. The line moved okay. I mean, they had, like 2 bartenders, and it just, for what they were advertising, it was just, they didn't have enough, and it was all the way in the back. So like, there's this, it was just really slow, and it kind of like snaked around. So we wasted a lot of time doing that. Now, while I was in line, Ray and Ryder did get to meet Kyle Paulo. So here's some pictures of them with Kyle Paulo. They said he was awesome and very, very nice. And he was on his own. So he wasn't hosted by Disney from what I could tell. I know he's on their PR list, but Ray said he didn't have any sort of handler or anything. So he was was by himself. But they said he was very nice. So thank you so much. Sorry I didn't get to meet you. But so by the time I got to the front, I'm like, you know what? I'm getting 2 drinks because I'm going to, this is the last line I'm sitting in for food or drink. And I was really hungry. I didn't eat dinner, and we had a late lunch, but I didn't eat dinner because I wanted to try the food at this event, and I never ate. The lines were just ridiculous. And honestly, they weren't staffed enough. So this thing with the Tip Top Lounge, they didn't have enough staff. Also, the drinks are not what's advertised. So the Fifth Dimension was actually pretty good. It was pre-mixed, so it was kind of like in this juice dispenser, and then they poured in the Prosecco. So that one was actually pretty good, and I felt like if I was going to get anything again, that would be what I would get. The other one, I can't remember what it was like juice. And I think they mixed it in with, I'm not sure if it was all in the container because I couldn't really see. So they weren't bartenders like serving drinks. They weren't mixing the drinks. The drinks were pretty much, were pre-mixed. So it was taking so long. And I can't even imagine if they had like a true bartender, how long it would have taken. But to have the drinks pre-mixed and it was still taking such a long time for the lines to move, they just were understaffed, to be honest. And then also to get there and to not be given a full drink. And then honestly, I think I never got the alcohol added, because I think I got the juice, but I never got the alcohol added. They handed it to me. When I looked at other people's, theirs were like light blue. Mine was bright blue. So I think that they just forgot to add the extra alcohol like they did for the Fifth Dimension, where they added in the Prosecco, and they just gave me, basically I paid $9.50 for juice. Okay, so immediately after that, I went 2 drinks in hand, and we went over to the Disney Holidays in Hollywood show. They had already started, again, loading in and bringing everybody in. It was past 10:30. I don't know exactly what time it was, but it had already started to fill in the theater. Everybody was trying to go toward the center. So what we did is we went immediately to the left-hand side to get a little bit closer, and also to get an end seat in the center part. So closer to the center, but on the end, because if you have kids or you have or you're short, trying to get on an end cap, so that we put Ryder on the end so that he could see kind of down the aisle, so he could have a better view of the show, which was perfect. So that's what we did. And we actually got pretty close, and he had a really good view. But the show, I personally I would not have gone to the 10:45 show. To me, it's not a must-see. This was my must-see, and the Who's This was not. I would flip it. The Who's This is not to be missed. This one is okay. It is geared towards adults. So I will say that it is geared towards adults. I have heard some adults rave about it, think it was like amazing. I did not think it was amazing. I thought it was good. I thought it was entertaining and in parts. It is a half an hour. And then it took about 5 minutes to leave out, so you're going to take at least 50 minutes or a full hour to watch the show, because you're going to have to get there early, and then it's a half an hour, and then it takes 5 minutes just to leave the theater. So it's going to take you almost an hour, if not a full hour, to see the show. I don't think it's worth 25% of the party. I just don't. Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy, fantastic. Love them, entertaining. My son loved them. I mean, who doesn't love them? Mickey and Minnie at the end, fantastic. The finale, which I did post, I'll post it up here. I posted the finale in full. That was the best number. Absolutely the best number, was fantastic. Ryder really enjoyed the Oh Christmas Tree with Mickey and Minnie. They both did like this little Oh Christmas Tree, and he really enjoyed that one. Kermit and Miss Piggy didn't do any like sort of number, but they had like the performers were phenomenal. Like the performers were phenomenal. I just thought the show dragged. I thought the show was kind of boring in parts. Like there were parts that were entertaining, but then there were a lot of boring parts. Tiana, amazing singer, but I just didn't, I don't know. I just was kind of like, I was bored. The Belle part, there's a part with Belle. She sang like a slower Christmas song. And again, she was amazing, a beautiful voice, but it was boring. And again, for me, I just thought it was boring. And I like shows. I'm not a huge show person on cruises, but I do enjoy shows. I danced when I was younger, so I do enjoy that. Just to me, it was kind of boring. It wasn't like the upbeat tempo of the ones like the Halloween party or the Christmas party. It was really boring in parts. So Ryder did enjoy it. Ryder enjoyed it. He really, like I said, liked the Mickey and Minnie. I think it needs more characters and more upbeat numbers. Upbeat numbers, I think, would really add to it. They have these commercial breaks. I got what they were going with it, but it made the show drag even more. And they didn't last long, so they didn't take up that much time, but I thought they dragged. It made the show drag. Ray was in hell. Ray was in absolute hell. He does not like shows, so he is not a show person. And he doesn't really even enjoy the castle stage show. He'll go to them and he'll tolerate them, and I guess he will enjoy those. But in this particular show, he was in hell. Like he thought he should have just gone and gotten food or a drink because he just hated it. So it's definitely geared towards adults, and I think even an older clientele. And I don't think it's geared towards kids. Ryder enjoyed it, but Ryder is an old soul and he likes that type of stuff. But I think if I were to say, hey, you want to go wait in a 45-minute line for a character, or do you want to go see that show? He would have said, let's go wait in line for a character. So it wasn't like a must-see show for a kid. So I would say if you have kids or you're not like a big show person, take a look at it online, see if it's something you want to see in person. If it is, or it's kind of like if we can get to it, go at 11:45 and try to go to that show. I wish we had done that because I'll talk about what happened next. And but I really regret, with everything that happened after this point, I actually regretted seeing that show because it wasn't that good. Okay, so here's the part where the night goes south. Now, I will say, when I started editing the video, we were really excited about this party. We were like, we got just the nines, and I'll tell you, thank God for my husband that he is game. I told him like we're bringing out the suit again, and he was just okay. And Ryder's game. Ryder wore his hat, and we were game, and we had planned to take a lot of pictures. And just the lines, like as I was editing my video, it was just like, and there's a line for this, and there's a line for that, and there's another line, and there's another line, and there's another line. And then you also didn't know where things were. They were on the map, but like the magic shots were just a camera. Or all the picture shots were just a camera. But the special magic shots, it didn't say like, here's a list of the magic shots. At least I didn't see it on the map. And then the map, because of the way it was colored, what they should have done is designed the map and then gone in the dark in the park to look at it, because you couldn't see it. You had to find, like I was taking the phone and I was taking the light on my phone and trying to shine it to see it. And it was just very, very hard to see. So that was a poor design flaw. But then everything was a line. Everything was really a long line. And then from, like the Tip Top Club was like all the way in the corner in the back. And it was just, everything was designed poorly. And then there just wasn't enough staff. There wasn't enough staff for what they were offering. Like they had all these, like you're going to have this and that and this and that. But there was just all these lines. So we left that, and it is now at this point, it is 11:20 or 11:15. I'm sorry, it was 11:15, and we're walking out, and I ask Ryder, okay, what do you want to do? And he's like, I want to meet Phineas and Ferb. And he had told me that he absolutely wanted to meet Phineas Ferb. We had passed it after we left Who's This. The line was extremely long. I heard later that people were being quoted 2 hours. Rescue Rangers was a little shorter, but he didn't want to see them. He wanted to see Phineas and Ferb. So I was like, buddy, that line is 2 hours long. Let's go to the show. We'll come back. And he was like, okay. So I said, do you want to see Mickey and Minnie? He goes, no, I want to see Phineas and Ferb. So that's who he wanted to see. So we went and got in line. And so we got in line, and we're in line. It kind of curved around, and I just made sure. And then I noticed we weren't like moving. So there was like a hedge there. And so I just kind of wanted to see. Now, people were taking their time. I wish people had moved faster, but I guess if you waited 2 hours, you're going to take your time too. So I don't necessarily fault people for that. I'm very conscious of that, like not to take time, especially when I know there's a line. But I understand if you waited 2 hours, you want your time with the characters. Most of the people were adults. There were a few kids here and there. There was a kid, you can see him in my video when he gave a high five to one of the characters. And he was like obsessed with them. I was chatting with his mom and he was obsessed. Like they came to the party just to see Phineas and Ferb. Okay, so at this point, I started kind of paying attention as to what was going on with the characters, even though it was kind of like over this ledge. It was kind of like up the hill. And then a cast member came over and said, if it starts to rain, the characters are gonna have to go inside. And I was like, oh crap. So I had him sitting on a bench just kind of watching, YouTube on my phone. And I brought him over and I said, it might rain. Do you want to see other characters? He's like, no, these are the only characters I want to see. I said, do you want to go to see Mickey and Minnie? Do you want to do anything else? And he said, no, I want to see Phineas and Ferb. So I put him back on the bench. I could see him. It was right there. And then I started really paying attention to what was going on. Obviously, I just was kind of getting anxious and having a little bit of anxiety, kind of like, okay, get this line moving. And that's when I noticed, and I don't know if it happened before, but that was the time I noticed the first influencer cutting the line. And it wasn't the influencer cutting the line. It was a Disney handler, marketing person, PR, whatever they were. They weren't like in a suit. Everybody that I saw, like handlers, they had like a name tag, but they were dressed like in a Christmas spirit jersey or Christmas like Disney apparel. But you could tell they were leading certain influencers, Instagrammers, and they weren't people that I recognized. I had seen Tim Tracker. He had some, I did see him with someone, but I never saw him cutting the line. And I saw him several times throughout the night. And I always saw him enjoying the party like a regular guest. So I want to put that out there. So, but I didn't like we saw Kyle Palo, he didn't have anybody, handling him. But this was the first time. And I saw the Disney person, the Disney employee, I won't even call him a cast member, stop the next person in line, and then allow this person to create content. And when I say, I'm not talking, a photo with the PhotoPass photographer. I am talking getting their phone and creating content like that and taking 3, 4, 5 minutes. The last person took about 5 minutes, took their time, did several different reels, and no thought for the people that they cut in front of, that they, interrupted. Now, I will say this. I do not blame these influencers. I don't know any of them. I'm not really on TikTok. I'm on TikTok and I'm on Instagram, but I'm not really active there. And I don't follow anybody that I don't follow like on YouTube. So there were nobody that I recognized, so I can't, but I also don't blame them. They were obviously invited by Disney and they were there to do a job for Disney. So Disney was the one interrupting, cutting the line, and getting in front of these paying guests that were waiting in line and allowing these people to do it. They wanted this content. So I don't blame the influencers at all. They probably wanted, and they probably took their time because they wanted to do good content, because they wanted to be invited back for Disney. So I don't want to call anybody out. The footage that I did put in my video, I felt was far enough away where the person probably couldn't be recognized easily. I don't know who they are, but I also don't want anybody to call them out because I don't blame them at all. It relies solely on the Disney execs. So that happened. I saw it. I was like, wow, and I'm watching my watch. Like at that point, because you can start feeling when you're in Florida, when a storm's coming. Even if you can't see the clouds, it's dark, when a storm's coming. And I'm like, and I'm starting to get anxious. Like, okay, we're waiting this is who my son wants to see, right? And as a parent, I could care less about Phineas and Ferb. So I'm just watching my watch, and I saw that happen. Then I saw it a second, different person, different handler, different Instagram or TikTok or whatever. Another person does it. Same thing, creating content with their phone, doing it, chatting with the characters. They took PhotoPass photos too, but creating content. Okay. Third time. The third time was the time that I showed. And I can't remember which time it was, but at one point there was a mom with 2 small kids. Most of the people in line were adults. There were some teenagers, there were a couple kids, but most of the people in line were adults. But there was a mom with 2 small kids. The 2 small kids are about to run up to the characters. And the Disney employee goes like this, right in front of them. I was like, I couldn't believe it. These poor kids, and they let this person go. And that was the person that took the longest. And it was probably at that point that I started to rage internally. I was getting very upset. And it was starting to drizzle. Like, you started feeling like that, kind of like that mist in the air. And if you've been in Florida, you know what I'm talking about, right before the rain starts. And I was starting to get anxious, like, okay, like, we're not going to see these characters. We're not going to see them. And at that point, the cast members are coming around saying, if it rains. And when also I will say is when these Disney employees were interrupting and cutting the line for these influencers, the cast members that were managing the line for the Phineas and Ferb, I could tell it bothered them. They didn't say anything, but you can kind of see when they're looking at each other, they felt very uncomfortable. They felt like, I just kind of got the impression that they even felt this was wrong. A couple of people said, like, why didn't you say anything? I said, what were they going to do? They weren't going to do anything. They couldn't do anything. Like, these people were above their pay grade. This came from the top. And it's kind of why it's taken me a couple days to film this. Like, even thinking about it, talking about it right now, I am getting very upset because it shows me where the thought process is with Disney and Disney management specifically, not the cast members, Disney management. They did not care about the paying guests that night. They didn't care. Their thought process and their pure intent was, we are going to get great content from these influencers for free. And even if it's at the expense of paying guests, even if it's at the expense of this 4 and 5-year-old that's been waiting in line for over an hour with their mother. And it doesn't matter. They do not matter. It doesn't matter that they probably paid $500 for these tickets. We need this great content. They do not matter. That's what I saw. That's what I saw that night. I saw it 3 times. Okay? And that's why I get upset. Because I love Disney. I love Walt Disney World. I think there's amazing cast members. But that's what I saw that night. And you know what? That starts from the top. That starts from the top and it comes down. And I'm glad they're getting ripped apart for this event because they should. Because the thought process, the logistics and planning, yes, there was poor planning on a lot of it. A lot of people should not be planning events that planned this event. But that right there showed that they did not care about the paying guest experience. Their pure goal for that night was to create great content and to sell out the other 7 nights that hadn't sold out. Okay, so I actually took a little break because, again, as I was stating, just thinking about it, the whole situation gets me upset just as a parent. So we were about like 3 people from the front and it started to sprinkle. And it was sprinkling. It was, I won't say it was heavy. It was sprinkling. And you could see the cast members and I looked to my husband. I'm like, they're shutting it down. And we're 3 people. I think there was two groups in front of us. And I was like, they're going to shut it down. They're going to shut it down. And we saw it. And they actually let one more group go. And we saw them talking. And it didn't get pick up at that point. But we were second in line. So the mom and son that I referenced earlier, they were next in line and we were after them and they shut it down. So now I will say the cast members were frustrated. They didn't want to shut it down. I understand that. It was for safety reasons. Their hands were tied. But one, if they hadn't interrupted the line those 3 times with those influencers, we would have seen them, right? The line, you could gauge how long the line was, right? I knew when it was 2 hours long where it was down all the way by the Indiana Jones. It wasn't near that. It wasn't even close to that. So I knew how long the line should have been. The line was a lot, was not 45 minutes long. The line was probably a half an hour long. But because they interrupted the line with those 3 influencers, my son, the child, the young teenager in front of us, didn't get to meet their dream characters because Disney chose to do that. Now, it's not their fault because of the rain. However, it is their fault that they didn't have a contingency plan. They didn't have a backup option for these characters. I think Chip and Dale also left because looking back on it, where the line was, I'm not 100% sure, but I think they also left even though they were covered. I'm not 100% sure though. And it might have been for safety reasons because of the people having to wait. The people had to wait in the rain. So now the issue there was one cast member said, Phineas and Ferb are leaving for the night because of the rain. Please enjoy the rest of your night at Jollywood Nights. And then another cast member came and said, Phineas and Ferb are having to go in, literally one after the other. Phineas and Ferb are going to have to go in because of the rain. If it stops raining, they will come back. So we're all kind of standing there in line going, well, what is it? Are they leaving for good or are they coming back? And one saying they're leaving for good, one saying they may come back if it stops raining. Now, it never stopped raining, so that never became an issue. But there was all this mixed information. So I told Ryder and I told him, and he's 7, right? We've been waiting for 45 minutes and, it's late. He's tired. And this was the one thing he wanted to do. I made him go see the shows, right? I made him do the pictures. So as a parent, I felt awful. I felt like shit. Like I felt just like right now I'm about to cry because I feel so bad that he didn't get to see his characters. And I was just like, okay, what do you want to do? Like anything you want to do. Like the rest night, it was 12:10 at that point. There's only 20 minutes left of the party. We wasted 45 minutes in line for characters we didn't even get to see. Okay, what do you want to do? And he just was like, I want to go ride Tower of Terror. So at that point, I was next. The mom and son in front of me had left. And I said, I was like, if we leave and if they come back, can I get back in line? We waited and they're like, well, if you leave your spot, then you can't come back. I'm like, I waited 45 minutes. Like, I understand, but if you leave your spot, you can't come back. And I'm like, so that was where I was like, well, if they come back, and they didn't come back, right? So it was a non-issue. So I told my husband and son, I said, go to Tower of Terror. I'm going to wait here. And I said, can I please talk? And she's like, I need to talk to my supervisor. So I'm standing there. It's still raining. It's still sprinkling. That's when I made the little Insta story of what was going on. And she's like, well, let me talk to my supervisor. I'll come right back. So I waited there for 10 minutes and she never came back. And it just, at that point I realized this girl's not coming back. She's not coming back. So I just was like, I cut it. And I looked at AccuWeather and it was obvious that it wasn't going to stop raining. So it was a non-issue. They weren't coming back. So I left. So with that cast member, I'm not upset. And looking back on it, I was very upset at the time, but I know also it wasn't her fault. And she was saying what she's supposed to say. However, to tell somebody that was next in line when the characters had left, well, if you leave, you can't leave the line, was just, it was aggravating, to be honest. But I also don't blame her. She was doing her job. And, I hope I wasn't, I'm sure I was probably a little rude. I was just very frustrated. And if I wasn't, you're watching this, I'm sorry. But, I did wish that she had come back and said, look, they're not coming back. I wish she had just come back 5 minutes later and said, look, they're not coming back. That's kind of the mixed messaging as far as they may come back, they may not, whatever. It was kind of well, do you leave or do you not leave? Do you want to just scrap the 45 minutes you just waited? So that was a little frustrating. So I headed to Tower of Terror. Ray and Ryder were riding it. They rode it there was 4 people on their car. So here's the picture of them. And then we went straight to Rock and Roller Coaster. So we went on Rock and Roller Coaster, all 3 of us, and got off the first time. Now it is torrential downpour. So that's where I know the characters didn't come back, because it was a torrential downpour when we came out of Rock and Roller Coaster first time. My husband's like, I'm like, and Ryder's like, I want to ride it again. And Ray's like, go. So he waited in the gift shop. Ryder and I ran through the rain, went back to Rock and Roller Coaster, and the cast members there were like, don't run, but it was like pouring. So they were amazing. Like the Rock and Roller Coaster cast members were phenomenal. And we came in, and that's when I did the little, I realized when we went into the room, we were the only ones there, and they were doing, during the party, you could just skip that room. You just walked through. So I was like, Ryder, let's do the, how about some backstage passes?
Well, guys, what do you expect me to do? Is send them all with you?
How about some backstage passes?
Wait a minute. I love that idea. How about some backstage passes?
Oh.
Yeah.
Good job, Ryder!
Make it happen. Give us some.
Okay, make it happen.
So he was just really excited to do that. So that was very exciting for him. And then when we got there, we were in our own car. So, and actually the car in front of us had nobody in it. Like they had nobody. And the cast members were racing down who could close them all the fastest, like the whole car the fastest, which was fun to watch, like as we were coming in. So the car in front of us was completely empty. And then we went in and we got the last row, which is Ryder's favorite row. We got the last row and we were in our own car, and we got off the ride. We weren't the last ride. There was, I think 2 or 4 people after us that rode in the car after us, but we got off the ride at 12:32. And again, it was pouring. Okay, so then we came out of Rock and Roller Coaster, and again, it was pouring, and we're leaving, and the fireworks were happening. Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam was happening. I did not think it was happening. It did happen. So a lot of people had left at that point. And I just went to Ryder. I'm like, you want to watch the fireworks? He goes, yeah. And at this point, he was in his stroller, so we were able to put the cover, and thank God we did bring the stroller. I mean, he looks ridiculous in it at this point, but so glad we had it. I did bring an umbrella, so I had an umbrella, and Ray's like, I'm going in one of the shops. So he went in one of the shops and stayed dry. Ryder and I watched it in the rain, and it was good. We had obviously missed the beginning of it. The fireworks, there really wasn't, it seemed, I hadn't seen it since like 2019, I think is when the last time I saw it. It seemed like it was less. Now I don't know if that was because of the rain and maybe they didn't do the full pyro, but it seemed like it was less fireworks except at the end. But I don't know. I don't remember, but that's what it seemed like. So, if someone has like more information, I haven't really watched, I try not to watch too many other people's videos because I wanted to give my experience, but, let me know what you think or if you've watched like what it was in 2019 and what it was on Saturday night. So, I enjoyed it. It's not my favorite show. I enjoyed it, but Ryder really enjoyed it, and that's what really mattered. And I will say, having that experience, on Tower of Terror, riding almost in the car by himself, and having that experience at Rock and Roller Coaster, especially that last time around, really salvaged the night because he wanted to leave. I mean, it was that bad and it was that upsetting. And as a parent, I was furious. I was furious at Disney executives and Disney management for how they treated their guests, their paying guests. So, let's get into, let's talk about when leaving. So we had driven there. We did drive there because we were staying at Old Key West, and we had gotten, if you do drive, we had gone, there's like, standard and preferred. There was nobody like gearing you to go, like not to go to preferred. So I told my husband, I'm like, go down preferred. And our thought was we would get to the first standard row, right before preferred. But when we got down there, they just were bringing us down. So they actually parked us in preferred parking, and anybody that went down that row that, none of us had preferred, they parked us in preferred for the party. So, worst they can do is tell you no, and you just park in the row. There was plenty of parking in that standard row, right behind preferred parking, but we didn't even need to do that. They brought us down to preferred. So a lot of people were going the standard route, and they were parking like really, really far, like a regular day guest. Like, you know, even though there's parking in the front, they were parking like regular day guest. So I would say if you have a car, go down the preferred route and see if you can get close, because they were directing us to go and park at preferred. So thankful we were, because we were literally parked right next to the Skyliner. And so we didn't have far to walk once we left. Okay, and now that leads me to the Skyliner. So I was wrong. When we left, the Skyliner was down, so we assumed that it was down because of the rain. No, they actually shut their Skyliner down at 9:30. That was the plan. So someone on my Princessa 2235 said Disney had the Skyliner scheduled to shut down at 9:30. We were staying at the Riviera. We had dinner there and headed over to DHS on the Skyliner around 7 p.m. As we were walking to the station, I saw a sign that said the Skyliner was running until 9:30 p.m. I asked the attendant what the deal was since we were going to the party, and she said it was stopping at 9:30 because they were only accommodating regular park guests, not the party. And then she said it was super disappointing. So, yeah, and I will say a lot of people probably didn't know, because we did see a lot of people are like, I heard a lot of people saying the Skyliner's down, like, what are we going to do? So maybe they didn't see the sign. I don't know. Maybe they had been in the park. I don't know the situation, but that was the first I heard of it. Now, they run the Skyliner for Midnight Magic. We went to Hollywood Studios when they did Midnight Magic and they had it running. They've run it for like the extra midnight hours or extra magic evening hours at Epcot. I don't know if they did it for Hollywood Studios, but this is a paid event. That's expensive. The most expensive night is $179. I actually had put a wait list to have our trip moved to the Riviera and go from a 1-bedroom at Old Key West to a studio at Riviera, which is pretty much the amount of points, which is ridiculous. But and it never came through. Thank God, because I was doing it so that we could use the Skyliner and not have to worry about driving. But we just decided to drive. But I would have been furious when you're paying that money. Like, it should have been running to at least Caribbean Beach, and to Pop Century and Art of Animation. I understand maybe not Riviera because that's the Epcot loop, but you can walk to Riviera from Caribbean Beach. It's a walk, but it's not that bad. So you can definitely walk from Caribbean Beach to Riviera. I'm just shocked that they didn't have it running to Caribbean Beach, part of Pop Century and Art of Animation. Like, that is, to me, I would have been furious, because especially if you stayed at those resorts to use the Skyliner for this party and then it's not even running. To me, that's just unacceptable, especially at the price of this party. Okay, so I told you this was going to be a long video, and it is. But I wanted to give a lot of detail and backstory. Because obviously being in the moment and there was a lot of confusion that night. So I kind of wanted to explain a lot of the situation. Now let's talk about the pros. So let's talk about the pros, because there were some. So if you want to use this as an after hours event, it's a great event for that. Great event for after hours. All the rides were a walk-on. Now, Rise of Resistance was a virtual queue, and it opened at 8 o'clock. Most people got in it that wanted to. We didn't even try. We weren't going to waste time on that ride. My co-host from DVC Newscast was there, and he was group 5, and he wrote it right away. He went there as soon as his group was called right at 8:30, so they went there right away. The ride went down, which, I mean, is kind of funny, and it's not funny, but it went down, and it was down most of the night. So yeah, that happened. So, but I did hear that the virtual queue, they did go out pretty fast, but it wasn't like seconds like it does in the morning. They did go pretty fast, if you went in at 8 o'clock, you most likely got a boarding group. It may not have been called because the ride went down, but that was that. Everything else was a walk-on. Now, we never ventured past Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway just because of, everything was a line. We wanted to go to the street fair, and we knew a cast member that was working in that area in Toy Story. We just never made it out there because everything was a line and everything was hard to get through. Like, it didn't feel like a special event. It didn't feel like we could get through, you know, a lot of things. So we never got to see Galaxy's Edge. We never got to see Toy Story. Now I heard they didn't really have anything special. There was the street fair, whatever. I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard ABC Commissary was a really good place to get food, that it wasn't that long. But the food, again, was mediocre. Pizza Rizzo, I heard people went there. Again, not as long line, but again, it was hard to get back there because, you know, most of the things were in the front. They should have spread out. Like, some of those characters could have been at Toy Story Land. Like, that would have been a great area. Maybe it doesn't make sense to have Phineas and Ferb in Toy Story Land, but you know what? They probably could have been covered in Toy Story Land, and I actually would have gotten to see them. So, you know, and it would have dispersed the crowd a lot more if they had it dispersed better. You know, you had all these lines. You had Powerline Max. You had a line for everybody in the line for the Gertie cookie, and you didn't know what line you were getting in. Like, I first got in line for the Christmas tree thinking it was Phineas and Ferb, and then someone said, no, Phineas and Ferb is over there. So, not well distributed. So again, I thought I was doing the pros. Okay, the pros. So the pros are the rides. Walk-on rides. Everything I heard was a walk-on. You know, we got to ride Tower of Terror. Ray and Ryder got to ride Tower of Terror, literally a walk-on. The car was partly empty, so obviously they didn't have to wait at all. And you didn't even have to do like the rooms, like you just walked through. Same thing with Rock and Roller Coaster. So all of the rides were walk-on. So if you want to treat it like an after hours, this is a great event. Okay, the next pro I have are the 2 match shots that we got to do. I heard there's more. We didn't see them because, well, one, we went to one and it wasn't open yet, and the party had started, but those 2 were very unique and a lot of fun to do. Our wait, again, we went early in the night. The wait wasn't that bad. The character lines at that point for those characters were really long. But nobody knew those things were there. I expect that to change because I think those were very unique. The Boomerang one was the shorter wait. That one really wasn't that long. I think we maybe waited less than 10 minutes for that one. The one that was the like the camera, the Celebrate one, that one was a good 20 minutes. But that area was those 2 photo magic shots were a lot of fun. Not worth $500, but these were definitely pros. Okay, the next pro is going to be the Who's This Nightmare Before Christmas sing-along. Phenomenal. I heard that those 2, I think I mentioned this before, but the 2 silent performers were from Cirque du Soleil, and they were fantastic. So, and seeing that puppet up close, you know, I never get that close in the fireworks because I don't sit and wait for fireworks. So that was amazing. It's very, very impressive in person. Seeing Oogie Boogie, that part was a lot of fun. So that show, even if you don't like the movie or you're not a fan of the movie, you will most likely enjoy that show. It was very entertaining. Is it a sing-along? Not really. They do have it like a sing-along, but it's more a show, and it's absolutely worth it. And I'm going to put Disney Holidays in Hollywood as a pro as well. It wasn't my cup of tea. I thought it dragged. I thought it could be better. I thought it just was slow at points. However, I did like that they brought out Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy. I did like Mickey and Minnie. There was definitely things I would change about the show to make it more entertaining. But I do think it's a pro, and I do think it's worth seeing if you like that type of stuff. It's more geared towards adults. So if you have kids, I would show it to them online and see if they want to see it. I think if I were to ask Ryder and show it to him, he probably would have wanted to skip it. And honestly, if I had seen it, I probably would have skipped it as well. But I will put it in a pro category because I do know a lot of people did enjoy it. I think you need more Kermit. I think you need more Miss Piggy, and definitely more characters. So I would have liked to see more, Mickey and Friends, and then more upbeat, like Belle. It was great, but it was kind of boring. Okay, and the last pro, yes, the last pro, are these coasters. These were cute. These were passed out when we left. Everybody got like a little pack like this. It has 2 coasters. I think they're cute. And, again, not worth the $150 that the party cost, but I did think that these were fun and this was a nice treat. But that is it for the pros. Let's get into the cons. Okay, let's first start with the first con, and I think it was the first thing that I thought was going to be a problem when the party was announced, but I still bought tickets. So this was not something that was a surprise, but it was the hours of the event. So the hours of the event are 8:30 to 12:30, 4 hours. So it's one less hour than the Very Merry Christmas Party. I heard someone say like this was longer than the Christmas party. I don't know whose math they're doing, but yes, it is 4 hours. So it starts at 8:30, runs to 12:30. So it's 4 hours. So it's already one less hour, same price, or sometimes even more. But the also thing is that you, with the Christmas party, you can get in 3 hours before. You can get in at 4, and then the park closes at 6 and the party starts at 7. So you can get in 3 hours early, and then there's a full hour of park closure before the party starts. Here, the park didn't close until 8. We weren't allowed in until 7. So now instead of 3 hours early, you're only allowed to get in 1.5 hours early. So already cut in half. And there's only a half an hour of closure between the party starting. So honestly, big flaw right there. They automatically should have the park close at 6, right? That's just, if they're gonna have this party, there's only 10 nights. There are 10 nights to this party, and it's on opposite nights of, there's never a Christmas party and the Jolly Nights at the same time. So the park should close at 6, the party should go, which should start at 7, and it should go to midnight. That's it. And if you want it a little bit later, and then it should have a full hour to get ready. And that leads me to my next con, is that magic shots should have been up and ready when the party started at 8:30. To have it not only not ready at 8:40 when we saw it, but to tell me that it's going to be up in 30 to 40 minutes, that's 20% of the party. Unacceptable. Big con. Again, it is the first night. Obviously, there's going to be flaws, but that's just unacceptable. And again, they didn't allow for enough time to clear out the park guests. And just to have everybody's rushing, it caused a lot more congestion at the front because everybody's trying to get in at the same time. When we went to the Halloween party, we got there late because of traffic, but we got there at 5:15. We pretty much just walked in, but we still were early for the party. So everybody's trying to get there early, and that's what caused the congestion. And they just didn't have enough people to do the lanyards and everything. So right now, I would say the party's just not long enough. It's just not long enough, and especially with the way it's set up, it's definitely not long enough. But the park should close early, and and it should be set up the same way as. And if you want to do it at 7:30 to 12:30 and keep it open a little bit later, fine. Then close the park at 6:30 and instead of 6. But I still think the park should have closed earlier. And again, and the other con is magic shots and Photoshop, photos for all the event offerings should have been up and running at 8:30, point blank. Like, that's it. And then as far as like the shots, there should have been a clear map of where they were. When I tell you it's like, I can't find my map, to be honest. And mine I might have thrown it out because it got, wet and it was just completely in shambles. But on the map was just like these dark black cameras on the map. Well, in the nighttime, you can't see that. And then also you don't know, is that a character? Is that a magic shot? What is it? There was no clear map. Now, going into the party, the next party, there's enough vloggers that went to it, or there's probably a list where you can kind of have an idea. But, there's a lot of people that don't do research for these events, that they go in blindly like it is the first party. So you shouldn't have to rely on, people like WDWNT to provide that information. You should make it easy on the map so that people can see it. So that was the other con, was that the map was very hard, and then the magic shots and the photo offerings weren't really clear as far as what they were. Okay, next con is not so much a con, but it was a fail on Disney in when they first released this event. This event is not for kids. Not that a kid can't enjoy it. Ryder had a great time. But again, Ryder's not necessarily the average kid. He is an old soul, and being an only child and always hanging out with us, he kind of enjoys things that we enjoy. But it's not necessarily a kid friendly event. It is more for adults. The first time I heard it announced that it was an adult event, kids are welcome, but it was more of an adult event, was on Good Morning America back in October. Okay, the tickets went on sale in June. So that's way too late. And I belong to a couple groups in Facebook that were like, am I supposed to bring my kids? And I'm like, I'm bringing my kid. But there was a lot of back and forth of like, wait, do I bring my kids or not? So that's the con there, is that it's not that the con isn't that it's not a kid, event, or it's more geared towards adults. Kids are definitely welcome. And if your kids want to ride a lot of rides at Hollywood Studios, it's a great event for that. However, if you want to do things as a family in a holiday oriented environment, this is not an event, that's geared towards that. But that should have been announced in June when tickets went on sale, not in October when you're, announcing it and showing everything on Good Morning America. That was a con. That was a fail. Next, we're going to talk about the characters. So obviously the issue that I had with the influencers and the characters should not happen in future events, because I don't think it's going to be like, that was a media night. And I have seen several influencers on Instagram and TikTok that were part of that, and you can see it. There's a couple reels on there, you can see it. I'm not calling anybody out, but it wasn't the typical Disney people. It wasn't the people on YouTube that I follow. It wasn't anybody that none of them that I saw that were like hosted and part of that or posted pictures from those events were anybody that I recognize. So, it's probably a younger crowd. So it definitely seemed like they were, the people that they invited to these events were more Orlando-based influencers, and they were targeting the younger, Gen Z crowd for the remaining 7 events, that it was like an adult, date night type event, trying to build up tickets because of the 10 nights, only 3 had sold out. I think the only 2 other ones that have sold out are the Saturdays. I've heard a lot of people have gotten refunds, but I'm not sure if they're still sold out. But those were the people that were invited to that media event. I've seen it. They had all the food out for them. So all the special offerings were offered at the party. The special drinks were offered at the party. So they all have footage and stuff of that. But them, cutting in line of, like the special characters, shouldn't happen at future events. I will say that. Now, obviously, if there's a celebrity, that could happen, but it's going to be one-off. It's not going to be repeated. And I'll say that happened to me, but as I posted that, and I didn't necessarily make a post about it, but I talked about it in comments. And then I had a lot of people commenting to me and contacting me and DMing me saying the same thing happened to them. That they had it in other lines. They had it in Powerline Max and at Chippendale. And they also had it in Phineas and Ferb too. So it was something that was happening all night long, and was probably another reason why the lines were so long. But that shouldn't happen in the future going forward. But with the other characters, there was a lot of characters, right? So they had those 3 in the front. You had Edna Mode and Frozone in the back, but I never got back there because, just the way that the layout of the whole park and the whole party was poorly done, in my opinion. There really was no flow. Like, you just kind of got stuck in corners, and then it was so crowded, and it always felt like you always felt like you were in a crowd. So it didn't feel like, that party feeling where it didn't feel special. It felt like a very, very crowded day, like at Epcot during Food and Wine. Like, that's what it felt like. Of our week-long trip, which was 6 days of park days, this was the second day I felt the most crowded. The only other time I felt more crowded was the day before, when we were at Epcot Food and Wine on Friday, November 10th. The rest of the week and all the other parks, I never felt as crowded as I did the night at Jollywood Nights. That's wrong. But also I think that has to do with the flow. I think that has to do with the capacity. And also I think Disney didn't account that there's all these new offerings. People were probably not going to be riding attractions. And they accounted the capacity thinking that people were going to use that time to ride rides when no one was really riding rides. So that's that. But going back to the characters as far as being a con is that why did you switch Mickey and Minnie out? You know, the con was, one, you got in line for Mickey thinking you're going to meet Mickey, then he switches out. You didn't know what the time was. No one was telling you, like, you're getting in line for Minnie. It's Mickey right now, but you're getting in line for Minnie. There was nobody doing that. They do that on the cruise line. So they're capable of knowing how to do that, but they weren't doing that. There's also, you know, Donald and Daisy, Goofy and Pluto. Like, you could have been, like, gotten in line for Mickey, already had a picture of Mickey, wanted to go back, and you could have gone to see Mickey. Like, it didn't make sense, right? So, and then why only 3 kids? Why are you switching? It's a special event. I think it's, you know, I was reading on a message board and Len Testa posted a really good comment was they probably didn't want to make 2 outfits, right? Because obviously Mickey needs to take a break and they switch. So you need 2 different outfits. So you need that outfit in, you know, that Miami Vice Christmas outfit. You know, you needed 2 of them if they were going to switch out. But if they're switching Mickey and Minnie, they only needed 1. So there's that. So really good point by Len Testa. I didn't come up with that. He made that comment and I thought it made perfect sense. But again, also should have had some of the special characters all the way back in Toy Story Land. You know, they should have had something where there was motivation to go back there. There was no motivation to go back there. So it just made everything congested. But again, the characters, there just wasn't enough. They should have not had the alternating characters. You know, Mickey and Minnie, that just, you know, if you had a picture with Mickey and then you wanted a picture with Minnie, that didn't make sense. And then obviously covered. The fact that, fine, I understand it was a beautiful shot, but they should have had it covered. You know, the fact that there was no backup plan if it did rain, there was a way, there was places to put them. They just didn't have it planned. And to me, you know, you're paying for this party. There should have been a rain contingency plan. Okay, I understand wanting to have it outside, but they knew. I looked at the weather report. I said it in the beginning of my video that rain was expected as of 10 o'clock. It was a 30% of rain. The rain started around 11:45, so it did come later, but they knew that. So why was it? And then even some of the characters in Animation Courtyard were out, you know, not covered. When there already are covered spaces there. So that was just a huge fail and a huge con. Okay, let's talk about the food and drinks. So the food and drinks, I was very excited. I didn't think we were going to get in Brown Derby. I knew everybody was going to try to get into Brown Derby. So we had decided that we weren't going to try. We also didn't want to waste our time there. One of the things, there was a technical error. This was something that was posted on WDW Magic. There was a technical error and tables were not actually available. They said, basically, they texted hundreds of guests saying that they would be ready, their table would be ready in 10 minutes. And this is Len Testa, their team waited 59 minutes after receiving the 10-minute text. So, yeah. That's, you know, crazy. But as far as everything else, the lines were ridiculous. And then not only were they ridiculous where it was just like, okay, you're going to waste, you know, 15%, 20% of the party waiting in line. Then you get to the line. Like, I never would have waited in that line at the Tip Top Lounge if I knew it was a pre-mixed drink. That was ridiculous. And it wasn't advertised. Like, you have this nice picture of these glasses and everything. And I understand it's plastic, whatever, but then advertise that. Like, show the picture of what it looks like, not what, you know, the nice picture, and then you're getting something completely different. It was like bait and switch. And the fact that it was pre-mixed drinks and it was still taking so long means that you didn't have enough cast members there. And shame on Disney to do that to the cast members because it wasn't fair to them. Another con was the check-in. Now, going through the front wasn't that bad. However, I heard the check-in in the back, and the check-in was at Vacation Fun. What I was hearing is that if you were in the park and you checked in at Vacation Fun, which was the check-in spot for people who are already in the park, one person, I think it was Ordinary Adventures, said they waited 45 minutes. And then they were saying that the cast members were telling guests that it would be faster if they, exited the park and went through the front, that it would be faster. So again, shouldn't happen that way. They should have been able to pass. I don't know what exactly happened, but I've heard that from several people. It took like 45 minutes. And then even the cast members were saying it's better to go out to the front. The front was congested, but I kind of expected that. But again, I think a lot of that was guests' fault, because I think a lot of people, what I could see from what I could see is that people were scanning and it wasn't linked to their MDE. So like people were trying to scan and then they're on their phone. So I think part of it was probably guest error. But again, if you had better time frame of the hours and you closed earlier and you had a better time frame as far as, you wouldn't have had that issue. People wouldn't be rushing in because, everybody felt the crunch. Like you felt the anxiety, like we got to get all this done. I want to do everything, or I want to do as much as possible. I knew I wasn't going to do everything. But, everybody's trying to get in there. And the fact that Disney didn't anticipate that, what planet were they living on? And then going back to that is the miscommunication. To have some cast members saying you need a wristband and the lanyard, and then some cast members saying, no, you need the wristband and the lanyard is optional. The lanyard is easier. But then I heard other people were denied going into certain shows and things without their lanyard. Twice that happened to me, where people are like, well, you need your lanyard. And I was like, no, they told me that, and I didn't have it on me. And I pretty much was like, no, I'm getting in. And finally they let me in. They're like, well, get it as soon as you can. Well, that's not what I was told. And the fact that, again, cast members were told different things, unacceptable. I'm going to put this in the con category, the merchandise. The only merchandise was, I'm not a big merchandise person, so it wasn't a big deal to us, but the only specials merchandise was t-shirts, and they sold out, except for small and medium, within the first half an hour maybe. I would have liked to have maybe a pin or something. I mean, obviously I got coasters and a lanyard, but I would have liked to have gotten a pin. I think especially with Disney pin trading, that seemed like a logical thing to make. But all they had were t-shirts. So I think I'm going to put that in the con category. They probably not a bad idea because it doesn't look like this event was going to be very successful. Maybe they knew it was going to be a shit show. And then I think the last con is going to be the Skyliner being down. The Skyliner being down and being planned to be down, I thought it was down because of the weather. But the fact that it was planned to be down and it's not going to be offered during the party, again, if you're staying at Caribbean Beach, Riviera, Pop Century, or Art of Animation, I would expect that if the park is open, I would expect it to be open. The fact that it was closed, to me, I think is just unacceptable. Maybe not keep it open an hour past the event, but keep it open to 1 a.m. But it just shows Disney doesn't really care about its guests. Do I recommend this event? I only recommend it for a couple reasons. One, as I mentioned already, if you are interested in treating this event as an after hours, I think it is very good for that. If you have kids that want to ride, then I think it's a great, you can get on Rise if it's working. You can ride a Millennium Falcon. You could probably do a lot of attractions in a short period of time. You could do Rock and Roller Coaster a couple times in a row, almost have a whole car to yourself or whole elevator to yourself on Tower of Terror. So there's a lot of, opportunities that, and maybe it won't be as walk-on. Maybe with future events, you're not going to have all those vloggers and, bloggers, even the ones that weren't hosted, so you'll probably have some people. I still think that the majority of people are going to be trying to do the Christmas stuff. So I do think it's good for an after hours. But if you have young kids that are under, 42 inches, no, absolutely not, because 48 inches is the rock and roller coaster. So, 48 inches is they can ride everything, but 42 inches, if you have a child that's under 40, is it 42 or 40? Yeah, 42 is Ride as the Resistance, and then 40 inches for Tower of Terror, and, and I think Millennium Falcon. So depending on your kid's height and their age, I would definitely not for toddlers. Definitely not for toddlers. There's just not going to be anything. And the lines for the characters are just too long. Like, my son loves meeting characters. We didn't meet one. And we were in line for 45 minutes and we didn't meet them because Disney management chose to put influencers and Instagrammers and whatever above their Disney paying guests. And they thought that we didn't matter, that it didn't matter to us, that they were more important. And that's the reason why my 7-year-old did not get to see the 2 characters that he wanted, because Disney management thought Instagrammers and influencers were more important. I'm going to say that a couple times because as a mom, I'm super pissed. But so yes, after hours, good. If you have someone, if you absolutely love Nightmare Before Christmas, and you want to see that show, I personally, I don't think it's worth it just for that, but that really is a very good show. If I loved Nightmare Before Christmas, I could see me wanting to go to this party just for that, because it is that good. Disney holidays and Hollywood, it was okay. It was, again, I did put it in the pro category. I think the talent was great. The show kind of dragged, but I did think it was good. It was okay. But, to me, that's not worth going to the party for that. The magic shots are great, but not worth going to the party for. So, and definitely don't go hungry. Don't go hungry and don't get the drinks. Like, don't wait in line for anything, because even from what I heard, like, the drinks aren't even worth it. They were all pre-mixed. The food was okay. I haven't heard anybody rave about the food. And then I heard even the Brown Derby wasn't even that good. It kind of just looked like the Brown Derby. The food was not as good as it is normally, so it wasn't like Brown Derby food. The portions were very small, and they had a pianist there, and he was playing like Christmas music. And they had a pianist there, and he wasn't even playing Christmas music. He was playing just regular Disney music. So, yeah, we chose not to do that, and I'm so glad we didn't waste any time doing that. But it's just not worth it. So many things they could have done different. So many things they could do better. I hope it improves for the next one. I think the true test will be the one on November 18th, because they've had a week to kind of digest what changes they can make in this short period of time. I think that one's really going to be the true test of how it will be run. Obviously, there's going to be kinks the first day. I know that. But however, a lot of the kinks were caused by Disney because of their media event. Should have had just a preview. Have a preview, have that, have the characters out, or had those characters, been ready at 7 o'clock, 7:30, and had those influencers do their content before the party started. Don't interrupt paying guests during the party when they've waited in line for an hour just because of influencers. You should have had those characters out for those influencers or those setups and taken them around at 7:30 before the party started. And not that I'm talking to the camera like someone from Disney is going to watch this, which is not going to happen. But because honestly, I don't think they care. So I will say this whole event, we did make the most of it. We had a good time. We had a good time because that's kind of our family motto is we're going to make the most of it. We're going to have a good time. But of the 3 of us, only my husband didn't cry. Both myself and my son cried. And that's, you shouldn't have that. Like, that's not jolly. Jolly is not crying because, something happens. But we did make the most of it. I said this was going to be a long video. I'm dreading trying to edit this, but I hope that I kind of explained what happened, my thoughts on it, how it can be improved, and it had so much potential. It had so much potential, and I'm disappointed in the event. And then I'm also, as a parent and as a guest and someone who loves Disney World and loves Disney, I'm disappointed in Disney management, because I had heard this before, you know, and you hear about it, but you never see it firsthand. And when things don't affect you, you don't really think it's happening. And this was the first time that I saw it firsthand, that, you know, Disney doesn't really care about its paying customers anymore. And that's probably why their stock price is tanking. So thank you, welcome to, and thank you for attending my vent and my rant session, because that's pretty much what this ended up being. That was not my intention. I did wait a few days to film this because I did want to digest everything and absorb it. But as I talk about it and talk about some of the things, you know, as a parent, again, when someone hurts your kid, it affects you differently. So anyway, if you're new to my channel, thank you so much for watching. If you want to subscribe, I post content all the time. I try to do 2 to 3 videos a week. I do a lot of Disney, DVC, as well as cruising, traveling, and then also a lot of local events in South Florida. So with that, if you like this video, click like, click and subscribe. That way you get a notification every time I post a new video. Bye, everyone.